Welcome to Loving Beyond the I Do podcast. This power couple is building stronger marriages one day at a time. Talking about real issues on love, relationships, and marriage longevity. Let's break down the barriers and engage in healthy conversation with your hosts, Jason and Tina Marie. Take a seat and buckle up because things are about to get real.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Loving Beyond the I Do podcast.
With your hosts, Jason and Tina Marie.
All right, Jason. So what's on for this week?
Well, we have a guest. Who do we have in the studio with us today?
We have Riana Milne.
Hey, Riana, how are you? And welcome to the show.
Hey, what's
All
up,
right.
guys? I'm happy to be here.
All right. So introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about you.
Oh my gosh, what do you want to know? Some
Not
fun
the whole
facts.
laundry list. No skeletons. No skeletons.
Well, I mean, from some fun facts that have nothing to do with the topic. I danced the entire encore with Freddie Mercury, Queen, at the Night of the Opera concert.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, in Philly, I'm a Philly girl. Partied with the Tramps, they're my friends, and I sponsored them up to the Penn State concert. So there's a couple fun facts. A lot of
All
people
right.
don't know about me. The original disco queen. So
I
that
see.
ages me a little bit.
Yes.
For real.
Disco
But on the
mama.
business side, some exciting news. I was recently featured in Forbes magazine, just featured as one of the top 10 coaches to follow in 2022 for Wealth Insider magazine, and from the Global Trade Network, selected as one of the top 100 most successful women in the world.
All
Now,
right,
how that
well,
happened, I don't know.
I don't know. You kept showing up every day. That's
That's
all.
right.
That's it. Keep it
You-
going.
You danced your way to the top 100.
That's it. That's it. No,
Well-
for real, my daughter sang on 3 multi-platinum CDs with a top artist. So
Well,
I used to be
that's
in the talent business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Well-rounded. Well, thank you again for being here. And so this week's topics is going to be on what?
The things that we like to talk about most, and that's how your past affects your future and how your past plays a big part of your future and your relationships today. And we have the perfect person to talk about past traumas and relationships and how that affects your relationships now.
All right. So give us some insight into how we've always said that people don't realize that the baggage that they bring to the current relationship has everything to do with what is going on currently in that relationship.
Right. Well, this is what we call childhood trauma. That's unconscious, and it becomes part of your norms, your behavioral patterns that you don't even realize you're doing. And they originally started when you were kids as coping mechanisms.
Mhm.
And when I've been in the psychotherapist field and a professional clinical trauma professional for 22 years. So some of my work experience involves working in the schools with kids identified as ADHD, or the quote, the troubled kids, the bullies. And that's all the way from kindergarten through college. I worked in a mental health ward for kids ages 5 through 19, drug alcohol rehab centers with teenagers and women from the prison system. So despite the age, the culture, the race, the background, these top 10 childhood traumas kept showing up. And it wasn't until I went through one of my own love traumas that my ex turned to me and says, "What's the matter with me? I sabotage everything I love." And I said, "I honestly don't know." And I was a great student. I have a triple master's in applied clinical and counseling psychology. I graduated summa cum laude. But there, I'm like doing the mental scroll through in the DSM-4 book. And I'm like, I don't know what you have. For me to heal, like I have to figure it out. And I went to 7 therapist friends of mine, and none of them knew what was going on, that he had this whole secret life. We call it Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh,
Okay.
So Dr. Jekyll, everyone loves. He's very successful and charming and outgoing. And we had this ideal life. Then the secret life exploded on him, and it was somebody like I didn't even know.
Wow.
So it's like, where did that come from? And my research turned to discovering the impact of childhood trauma on an adult's current life, career, love relationships, and just their overall life satisfaction and happiness.
And so from that, what you just said, so most of the time we don't even know where it comes from. We're
Well,
so
it definitely comes from
no,
childhood
well, I mean,
dynamics.
people as they're going
Going
through
through
this
it.
Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, they're not relating the past
Right.
to what's going on. Like, what's wrong with me? What's happening? Why am I doing this? They're not realizing that it has to do with the past.
Right. And these normalized behaviors are so ingrained
Right.
that they don't think anything's wrong with what they're doing. So let's take someone, if you'd like, I'll go into what the top 10 traumas are. So that
Sure.
way, as we go further down the conversation, people can relate back to, oh, I had this and this was showing up for me.
Okay.
Okay. So the top 10 traumas, before I say them, I want the listeners to know not to have any shame or guilt around these if they've
Absolutely.
occurred for you. Because again, as a child, we're just a product of our environment. We're just part of the family system.
Absolutely.
And then also, it's not about blaming your parents at this point in life, because the research shows that childhood trauma goes through at least 3 generations. So when one becomes
Wow.
consciously aware and starts working on them, that's when the patterns stop. Okay. So the first one is if there was any addiction in the family. So we all know drugs and alcohol, but also sex, meaning you knew your parent was a cheater.
Okay.
Porn use, gambling, hoarding, spending, eating, gaming,
Wow.
TV watching, workaholism, and even the computer addictions, just being on your
Right.
machines all the
All the
time.
Time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the top 12 that I recognize because I'm an addiction specialist as well. Okay, the second one is verbal messaging. So you could have seen mom and dad yelling and screaming at each other, or they might have yelled at you. Another option is they could have shut down and punished you with silence, which we call passive aggressive. Or you might have heard messages where that made you feel not good enough, like, go change your outfit, you look fat in that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Slurs, we call those verbal slurs.
Right.
Also, what's included is not hearing the words "I love you" or hearing compliments like, "Hey, I'm proud of you, kiddo. Great job."
Okay.
Verbal message is super
Absolutely.
important. Okay, number 3 is emotional abuse and neglect. Number 4 is physical abuse, rape, or molestation, and all of these could happen inside or outside of the home.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is abandonment, and I named 2 types. There's fault and no fault abandonment. So no fault would occur if a parent happened to die early.
Mm-hmm.
If a parent travels a lot, they're out of the home due to work, and that's how they support the family. And actually, that was when I grew up with, I always remember, when's daddy coming home? And my mom's like, I don't know where he is. And none of us knew because it was FBI and CIA, which we didn't find out until my dad was dying of cancer and got letters from the head of the FBI and CIA and Ronald Reagan.
Wow.
So then we knew where my dad was.
All those years.
Wow.
Geez, thanks. She could have told us and it saved us a lot of heartache. All right. So that's no fault. Fault abandonment is never being active in your child's life. Being there while the couple's together. If they break up, you barely see your child. Means also a lot of broken promises. Yeah, I'll see you this weekend. And they break the promise. Or they're actually in the home, but not emotionally connected in any way. They don't go to the sport events. They don't know really what's going on in a child's life.
Absolutely.
It's like coming home from the office, eating, then going into the home office kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's that one. Number 6 is if you were adopted, part of the foster care system, or had to live in another person's home because there wasn't enough room in the major home, or your parents lost your home, anything around the living situation. Trauma number 7 is the one that people most identify with. We call that personal trauma. So if you felt different in any way, you didn't feel like you fit in. So you could have been a chubby, overweight child and teased for that, or skinny and tall and called a nerd. You could have been the only African American in an all Caucasian school. You might have tried to come out as gay and lesbian and people teased you for that, or you just felt not accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So people can really relate to trauma 7 for so many reasons. It could be a medical issue, right? It could be so many different things under that category. Trauma number 8 is related to siblings. So your sibling could have been born with a medical conditioning, making your parents give, that child more time because they needed it, making you feel slighted. It could
Yes.
have been that sibling bullied you and was mean to you while you were growing up, but it often refers to them being the golden child, the favorite
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
It's like the star athlete, the more handsome or beautiful one, the best student, so they get more compliments or accolades from mom and dad.
Yep.
Trauma number 9 has 2 parts. And I had to move down number 11 just because it was so rampant and it's one of the biggest ones today. Years ago, it wasn't that common, but
Okay.
that's community trauma. So
Yep.
we're all experiencing that trauma with the COVID pandemic,
Yes.
right? And all the controversy around vax, don't vax, all of that is still very active in our lives. Now the children, can they go to school? Can they not go to
Go to school.
school? So this will be playing a part as our children, my grandchildren, or our students today grow up to be adults. This will be playing a part with safety and trust and even emotional connection, right?
Sure.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's, and
absolutely.
that also stands for our Mother Nature events like floods, fires, hurricanes. So community events impacts people at large. Then the other part of 9 is family trauma. So that's if you grew up with a lot of lack messages, we don't have enough to pay the heat bill, or
Or lack.
we have to
Okay.
move
Right.
again, we can't afford to stay here. Or
Hmm.
our military families in the US have to move every 2 to 4 years with reassignment. It
Sure.
also
The
could be a
impact.
parent who's incarcerated. So there's a lot of family traumas. Those are just a few examples.
Hmm.
And then trauma 10 is if there is mental health issues in mom or dad. And the 2 most difficult for children to navigate is bipolar and borderline personality. So real simple, borderline means fast trigger anger and erratic moods. When they're good, they're great, but when they're bad, they're
They're
horrid.
hard.
And a
Yeah.
kid never knows what to expect. So that's
Hmm.
that walking on eggshells feeling. And then bipolar is manic depressive. So depression can show up as anger, checking out emotionally, or extreme fatigue. And a manic phase is usually tied with an addiction, like a gambling spree or a drinking spree or even a spending spree. So those are the top 10 traumas
Wow.
that we look at.
And so, through your studies, how do you feel as though when they bring those past hurts to the relationship, how do they usually show up?
Okay. So here's some of the dynamics. There's over 24 combinations. So I'll just name some common things. So if you had some abandonment issues, whether fault or no fault, you could tend to be more clingy or codependent in your relationship. You could have anxiety when your partner's gone. It can lead to staying in a toxic relationship so much longer than you really want to. Like consciously, you might say, this guy's no good for me. He's abusing me. And unconsciously, your need for love could be so strong, the
Oh.
Yeah.
craving, because
Hmm.
your father wasn't in your life. Okay. So
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So it's very unconscious. And it's like, and you're always pulled. Should I go? Should I stay? Well, I'm having some love, but this is horrible. And it's that back and forth. And this is what we call often relationship repetition syndrome, where they fight, then they make up, and it's smooth for about 10 days to 14 days. Then there's another fight,
Then it's
and
back.
it just keeps going round and round, and the couple breaks up, gets back together. The research shows the break up and get back together rate is 7 times.
Wow.
Before
And
you actually decide to say, I'm done with the relationship.
yes,
Wow.
before the one person finally says, I've had enough. And then the other way we repeat is, let's say there was a toxic marriage for 15 years. A woman gets out, she goes, I swear I'll never have someone like that again. And then the
And
next relationship is toxic again. And then the third one is toxic again. That's usually when I get them in my office. It's like, oh my God, Rihanna, what am I doing wrong?
Hmm.
And that's a frustrating thing, that you can't change what you don't know or understand. So
and that's usually, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Were you
yeah,
finished?
so that's usually what we do. We have to bring the unconscious to full conscious awareness, change the old patterns, and that we do what's called the mindset for success, like really focusing on those changes. And it takes, in my trauma work, that it takes a good 6 months. So my coaching programs are 4 to 6 months for that reason.
And that was basically kind of like my question. So, people recognizing that they're the issue in the relationship, and seeking the help, because lots of times, what do we want to do? We want to blame it on our
Blame.
partner. Yeah, we want
Yeah.
to play the
Blaming
blame game.
behavior is one of those traits.
Right.
Perfectionism, making,
Yeah.
trying to control the other.
Mhm.
People pleasing is a huge one for women. That's
Yes.
if you
Yes.
grew up with a difficult, let's say, a yelling, screaming alcoholic mom. So the older sister would get up, get all the siblings ready for school, pack the lunches, get to the the
Do
bus, and
everything.
just kind of really placate and please the mother so she wouldn't be yelling and screaming at the kids. And
Mhm.
then her whole life, her pattern is being a people pleaser, putting herself last. And by the time I get them, it's like, I have no idea who I am. All I did was serve my husband, serve my kids, gave them all the love I had, and I never got it back.
Well,
Right.
and I was
So,
gonna, yeah.
Yeah.
How do and so being a people pleaser in a lot of relationships, as you said, women, how do they? Sometimes we don't see that as an issue. So how
well,
do we help people
often
recognize that?
society says you're being a good wife if you do for everyone else.
Yes.
Right,
Well, that's what
exactly.
society says.
Exactly, when
Right.
we're playing along to society's rules and what
Right.
they think a wife should be. So how do
Right.
we get people to recognize that that's not really good behavior?
Well, part of the issues, I mean, when I was growing up in the 70s, they even had a song about this for a perfume. Like, I can wake up and go earn the money and fry and get the bacon and fried
Right,
up in a
right,
pan
right.
and prove that you're a man. It's like, I'm freaking superwoman. Okay. So, I mean, it gets really old. And that's why there was a lot of divorces from the marriages in the 70s, because the women were expected to work and raise the kids and grocery shop and do the laundry, do everything. And the
Mhm.
man worked, ate, sat down and watched TV. And then when it's
Right.
set, and it's like, wait a minute, I'm exhausted. Well, what? Why don't you have time for me? Because they don't equate. Chores are not fun. Now, I got to
Absolutely.
tell you, the millennial men, I think, are doing so much better today.
So
Um,
much better. Not all of them, but
But so
some of
much.
them.
I
Not
think
all.
they're doing pretty good with being equal partners. Like, I look at my
Yes.
son-in-laws, and they're amazing equal partners.
And they don't mind
Um,
helping out.
yeah,
You're
they're helping out as much as they can with the kids. They realize how tiring
Yep.
kids can be, and helping out a lot where they can. And that is helping to save a lot of the marriages. They're really, if they work as a team, this is so much more helpful than one bearing all the burden and the other one not. So that's super important. You really got to look at all that.
And I think that's part of like our message is that marriages is an equal partnership.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think part of also pertaining to that is that women are speaking up more. We are demanding more, or we're making them aware of this is a full-time job by itself, being a mom and
Yeah.
trying to do it all. My perfect statement is, don't start anything you're not going to finish. Don't start a marriage cooking and cleaning and caring for the kids if
You're
you
not going to
don't,
continue to do that.
or you don't realize the stress that it puts on yourself,
Mhm.
later down the line. And then you're wondering why the husband is sitting on the couch watching television while you're
Well,
barely
there's got to
making
be
it.
communication throughout, right? Nobody knows the
Absolutely.
demand of a baby until the baby's there. You just think,
Right.
oh, this cute little human's joining us. And it's like, wait a minute,
Right,
wait a minute.
right.
So you don't know what you don't know. So
Right.
the most important thing is getting the great communication skills that, by the way, nobody was taught in
Right.
high school, modeled by their
Nobody.
parents, in college classes, about how to speak to your best friend. Your partner should be your best friend, and how to work as a team to get through the issues. That's super important.
Super important.
And what I do when couples come to me, I work with singles and couples, but they normally don't have any idea of their past traumas that they're bringing into the relationship. That's first. They don't
Mhm.
know why they keep having the same issues over and over again, which are tied to the past traumas. So, what I have to do is take partner A and then partner B, do the childhood trauma healing work with each, explain to the other what their trigger points are and why they're sensitive about it,
Mhm.
and then realize that it's not about them if they're upset, but that upset partner has to say, babe, it's not about you. For example, if there was a man off to work and he did something wrong at work, even though he tried his best, his boss is there, you know what? You're no good. If you
Right.
do it one more time, you're out of here. And this guy grew up with his father saying, you'll amount to no good, right? So
Right.
now he's pissed off, driving home, hates his boss, cursing, walks in the door pissed off. The
Yep.
woman's thinking, now what did I do? He
Ah,
treats her lousy because he's mad,
Sorry. Yep.
right? So this spiral keeps going. Now, if they had this education, this scenario, when he heard that, and he can feel the anxiety in his body, which is, where trauma is stored in the brain and the body cells. It's like, okay, I'm being triggered. Why? Because I heard that from my father. This man is not my father. I'm a smart man. If this does not work out for me, what's the worst thing I can have? And I get another job. I'm skilled. I know what I'm doing. Maybe I'm not as appreciated as I should, but honestly, I did make the mistake. So I'm going to
Counteract the
fix
trauma.
this. I'm going to claim responsibility and fix this, do some deep breathing work, put on my jazz on the way home and just chill. Look at everything I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for this and I'm grateful for that. Walk in, hey babe, how you doing? Well, I kind of had a rough day, but I'm so grateful to be home with you. Let's have a nice dinner and a glass of wine and just chill tonight. Boom.
Absolutely. Being able
yeah.
to recognize it and counter it with something positive instead of letting the negative spiral out of
This is
control.
what we call the mindset work. This is what the
Absolutely.
mind has to
Absolutely.
get used to doing as a brand new pattern. Then when he's calmer, even he says, I was triggered today. And they learn to communicate about it.
But
And
we
to-
have to understand when we get triggered
that's
and
right.
what triggers us.
That's right. And why? Then
And
we
why. Okay.
change the story around it. We cap the negative emotions and change it. We do the mental mindset work,
Absolutely.
living in the light, which is the positive end of things, not in the fear-based, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, that idiot, you know how it goes. I'm the victim mode, which is the dark side, the fear-based negative side. We stay out of there. And we get into the light. What can I do? Well, the worst case scenario is this, and plan B would be that, and plan C would be that. Okay, I got this.
So your highest recommendation for couples or relationships that are having issues is to what? Seek help? So I'm asking that because a lot of people don't, as before, we weren't taught this. We're not
Right.
taught to go out and seek help. We think something's wrong, or we think this is normal.
Right. This
It's
is who I
normal
am.
to go through a relationship where we're
No,
arguing,
this is
we're
not.
upset.
Yeah, you want to
Exactly.
fix this because the problem is people are divorcing and saying, oh, my partner's no good. That's the blame thing. Then they
Right.
get to another relationship and do the same thing.
Yes,
So-
they do.
Yeah. So they're not healing the original wounds. And again, it's not your fault, listeners, that you have these childhood wounds. And childhood trauma impacts 100% of us. The research shows that we all have at least 1 to 3 of these traumas, if not more now. With COVID, that's like a given for everyone. There you go. That's your first one.
Yes.
Start there.
That we all
Okay.
share.
Right.
I could identify some, but the one about, the no fault with my missing father, that took me a couple weeks after the research. I'm like, wait a minute, I had that one
Right.
too, because some don't come up right away. But the important thing is that you're with someone that is certified in healing trauma. It's a CCTP, Certified Clinical Trauma Professional. Because as a coach, I'm very educational, right? So I'm teaching tons of skills, and I call it working the rainbow. So you're starting at the one end of like, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know why we keep fighting. I don't know what's wrong. I just know I don't want to live this way anymore. Like in this relationship as it is, right? This has got to change. So the skills that they're both learning is that first learning curve, and it's steep because you are erasing 30, 40, 50
Absolutely.
years of patterns.
Yes.
Taking those unconscious norms and making your conscious awareness and fixing them while you're staying calm, loving, spiritual based, firm, yet empowered, but kind. Like it is a combination of a lot of different things. And when I have couples, I am doing 3 entities, partner A, partner B, and the relationship, right? So yeah, we have to work on all 3 of those patterns. And then when the time you've got this, you practice this and you're over the rainbow, that's where the pot of gold is. But the skills you use forever. And when they're there, they look back, it's like, I can't believe how I was, and like I said, I have straight and LGBTQ couples as well. And I remember, a lesbian couple that were fighting like cats and dogs in 2006. And I healed them. They wanted to be married. Back then it was called a civil union. And I'm also Reverend Riana. So I did their wedding. And they are still married and so
Wonderful.
happy and so complimentary of each other. And,
Well,
it's just nice to see it. I have a lot of couples that have married over the 22 years. So, or stayed married once they have
well,
these.
it's nice to know that I'm not this way because my parents were like this. This is how my family was. So this is how I'm going to be. It's nice to make a change and be the person that you actually are, not just because of what you've seen in your childhood, and that's what you became as an adult.
Yes, this
But I
can be
think,
healed. That is the bottom
yes,
line. This can change and be healed, but it takes really skilled clinicians
Hmm.
and it takes a lot of practice and practicing the many skills that we give. I actually have, my number one best-selling book, Love Beyond Your Dreams, is 400 pages. And my notebook on this that the clients do with me is 150.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
So
So,
it is like I don't want to say intense, but it's not a fluff program, that's for
right,
sure.
Right.
right,
But
right.
it's
Okay.
easy. It's like check mark, yes, no, 1 to 4. And every worksheet you're learning something. It's like, oh wow, yeah, I do that. Okay. So when I tell Rihanna I got this, I know I have to teach them the skill around that. So it's very collaborative teamwork.
I think we have to recognize, because I know in a lot of relationships, people go from relationship to relationship to relationship,
Yeah.
and we're so used to playing the blame game that we really can't recognize
Right.
that the issue lies within us. How do we get through to those couples that are arguing constantly and no one wants to accept the blame, and
Well, again,
they
there's
don't want to seek help?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people say, well, we tried counseling. The problem is counselors do not know the trauma work. They really don't. I didn't. We didn't get it in our
Right,
school.
right.
So unless you move on to get a higher level of trauma professionalism, you really don't know how to help heal them. So, you have to really be willing to invest the time and the energy in healing this. But the great thing is it's lasts forever. And
Absolutely.
divorces are a lot more costly than investing in a 4-month program or a 6-month program.
And it
That can
changes.
change the rest of your
I
life.
was
It
going to say that
changes the rest of
changes
your
your
life.
life, and
Yeah.
puts you in a place of constantly being irritated and upset to happiness, because it's a
That's
choice.
right.
We're going to choose to either deal with the issue at hand, or we're going to choose to look over it and say that it's somebody else's fault. So, but this is
Right.
something that healing starts within each individual.
Hmm.
So, what are some of the what is the biggest recommendation that you can actually give a couple right now that does not have a game plan and doesn't know what to do?
Well, it's the way of thinking. The first thing I always say, have a motto. It's you and me against the world,
Hmm.
putting your partner first. Too many couples put their kids first, running the
Absolutely.
kids around
Absolutely.
to all the activities. Then they're tired on the weekends. The kid wants to go here, the kid wants to go there. And you have to stop and say, wait, Saturday night is mom and dad's night. And if you have a Saturday night event, then we will trade you Friday on a rare occasion if it's that important. But you need to schedule that in. And when you go out, you don't talk about the problems, you don't talk about the kids. You go out and you have fun. You go dancing, you both dress nice for each other. You got to get who were you when you dated each other?
Okay.
And you got to try and hold on to that as much as you can, right? I mean, we all age, but it doesn't
Right.
mean
Yes.
just because you're married, you don't keep yourself up and looking nice for each other. The attraction factor is important. So if you always put the
Absolutely.
kids first, or the family, or the friends, or I'm going golfing this weekend, you figure out what you're going to do. It's like you're going to fall apart. It's just the
So
bottom line.
what about blended families? When they put, because we have kids from other,
Right.
previous relationships, and now we get into a relationship and we're putting our children ahead of our mate. So what advice do you give for blended families that may not
It's the same
understand that?
situation, but I also want to emphasize that the parent of 2 little girls and the parent of 2 little boys should have their separate time as well.
Okay.
I call them daddy dates or mommy daughter dates or whatever. If you date of
Okay.
your original children, because they didn't pick this, hey, we're going to be a big family. And in a lot of ways, they miss their mom or they miss their
Your
dad.
dad.
So
Exactly.
having that quality time with your own kids at least once a month. Come on, gang, we're going to a movie, just the three of us, right?
Right,
And then
right.
you do the blended family activities. That's number one for blended families. And number two, Saturday night's parents' night. Same
Good
thing.
advice.
Same thing. Yeah.
Good
Same thing.
advice.
And they grow
Awesome.
up thinking this is normal, which is good because they see that you're putting each other as a priority. Show affection, walk in and give your mate a kiss, hello, at the end of the day. Hold hands when you're out, show affection, show love. Let them hear the words of kindness. Let them hear the manner words. Let them
Start.
see constructive, and I don't call them arguments. There's never a reason to yell at your mate unless they're in harm's way. Period.
Okay.
No reason to yell at them. So let them see proper communication skills so that they know what to do when they're older kids. And if you learn the mindset for success, which is the Live Beyond Your Dreams book, teach this to your kids. And I was learning this actually in my teens because my mom wouldn't let me go to counseling. That's why I was defiant and said, I'm going to grow up and to become one. So my counselor was a bunch of books on spirituality, Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer, Dalai Lama, Deepak Chopra, like all kinds of spiritually based books. And it helped me with this critical thinking and slowing down and the conscious awareness, right? So I taught my kids this since they were young. And I remember my Alexi looked at the TV and saw Save the Children in Africa commercial, and she goes, Mom, I'm going to go save those kids one day. She's 5 years old. And I said, baby, I know you will. You're smart, you got a heart of gold, and you're going to figure out how to do that. Now, that's the one who actually ended up singing with a major hip hop artist, went on world tour, ended up in Africa, looked down at the kids who were begging, said, I always had a goal to help these kids.
Wonderful.
Wow.
Now I'm here in Tanzania. So she comes back, she goes, Mom, what do I do? I'm not rich, I'm not famous, I'm 19, but I still have that yearning. I said, babe, you're smart, you're going to figure it out. You got a heart of gold. So her and her best friend ended up putting in 21 water wells in Tanzania.
Wonderful, wonderful.
This is the mindset work
Planting
that
the
we
seeds.
teach our kids to believe in themselves, their dreams. Nothing is crazy. At 15, when she's there, I want to be a pop singer. I'm like, let's get it done.
All right, there you go. There you go.
Let's do it. She sang on 3 multi-platinum CDs, and then she wanted to be a TV host, and she did that too. Now she's a millionaire coach around the world. But, you can teach your kids these skills, and they will grow up to have good strength and belief, and they want to see the love of their parents. It's super important.
That's what I was going to say.
That's the most important thing.
And the biggest thing is that you're being something positive to them to let them know what relationships parents are supposed to look like, as opposed to continuing the trauma throughout the generational, curses or generation after generation. Being that positive influence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's nice. I mean, that's what we tried to model. I tried to model that for my boys, and I tried to model it for my daughter. Just how a man interacts with a woman in a healthy relationship.
That's
how
right.
a man treats a woman, how a man interacts in a relationship. Not necessarily what you're supposed to do, and this is your role. The role is everybody. It's called family. Everybody plays a part in this.
That's right.
We don't have individual roles. Some people do things better than others, but
absolutely,
this is what we do as a family.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true. It's all good. Yeah, get them involved early. I have a whole parenting talk on that, but one of the great things for kids is what we call star chart or reward chart. And that works really well, and making them feel like the family system, that we count on you to do this chore every week or every day, So it is a family, and that's what I would tell my couples. And keep dating each other. Keep having your communication, keep having fun, dress up for Halloween. I mean, do whatever it takes to have a good time. I'm a huge Halloween fan, by the way. I have 40 costumes. So, have fun, laugh, go dancing.
Absolutely.
Don't stop,
Makes you have fun, keeps you young at heart. So for those couples that may not want to actually seek, a program where they have to be seen, can they purchase your book and do it inside? Just self-work without
and they start there.
Yeah. So is your book
anyone can buy my books on Amazon or the Barnes and Noble bookstore.
So tell us about your book.
Well, I've written 7 of them, but the 2 that are with my program is Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams. So Love Beyond Your Dreams is break free from toxic relationships to have the love you deserve. So that
Right.
even means break free of the toxic patterns, right? So
Absolutely.
Right.
there's 350 sources cut into that book. It's 400 pages. It's excellent. And then Live Beyond Your Dreams is from fear and doubt to personal power, purpose, and success. So when I was writing that, I was actually in the schools and writing it for age 14 up. So it's a
Okay.
simple read that anyone can understand. It's great for teenagers and for adults. And the two are meant to go together, what are called sister books, right? You don't
Right.
only
Right.
use one, you got to use both to have both life and love that I say live the life you desire and have the love you deserve. And that's what I teach. But really, I mean, if you are recognizing there's problems in your relationship, definitely get help from, if you're recognizing there's childhood trauma, get a childhood trauma specialist. Even if your partner won't go. Like I had someone that was married and they were in couples counseling for a year. And he said, it's beat up Bob day. We're gonna go.
Exactly.
So those
Exactly.
two sided against him, right? And he just didn't feel listened or heard. And he goes, I want my own thing. So she did not want to come into coaching. And I said, that's fine. Because if one person changes, if I
The
can
whole
get you to
relationship.
heal,
Yes.
and he had a very critical mother. So everything she said sounded very critical to him. And then he got angry and then they fight. So I don't know if I want to stay or leave this relationship. I just don't know. And I said, well, I'm glad you're taking this step. What is your wish? And he goes, my wish is to change it and stay. I said, so we're going for that goal, changing you because we can't change her. But how you
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
change,
Biggest key.
yeah, she will change. And they are the happiest you could imagine. It's amazing.
Yeah, because
Yeah, absolutely.
you need
Healing
to
usually
change one
does
of them,
that,
right?
right?
Yeah,
Right.
it
We have
does.
to
Yeah.
recognizing, changing it, changing the behavior and moving forward definitely plays a huge role in how we continue on.
Yeah. I'd
Because
rather have two in couples counseling, obviously, or coaching.
Yes.
yes,
But if I can
yes.
only have one, I can still help change the relationship. So that's what I want the listeners to know. If there's a stubborn partner, they won't go. You start because it shows them you are serious in wanting to change this dynamic, that you're not going to stand for how it is anymore. Because if you don't do anything to change it, nothing changes, then nothing changes. You're going to be in a toxic
Absolutely.
thing the whole time. And
And
life's too
it's just
short
like,
for that.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
but the relationship changes one person at a time, right? So if I want to see something different, then I need to become something different
That's right.
because that changes my vision of the relationship and my outlook and how I look at things. So yeah, we talk a lot about self development. The first way to start changing your relationship is working on you. If you
Working
change
on
you, you
you.
start changing your relationship.
Yeah, for real.
And
So
and you
one partner is all that's needed. And like I said, I prefer to have two. But
Hmm.
when the first partner starts changing and they're happier and they lost
Hmm.
weight and they're looking amazing, they usually get a little jealous. It's like, whoa, she
what
might leave me. Hello.
well, one or
Yes,
two
they
things.
might. Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
one or two things happen. If that other person doesn't want to change, they either split or that other person changes and they become
Come
That's
happier
right.
together.
together.
That's
And
it.
But you
yes,
sped up the process because you're going to probably split anyway because the person is probably jealous of you becoming a new person and they don't want to change. So, I mean,
Well, in my
everyone
last
grows at different.
situation, it did not.
Yeah.
No, it did not. Out of 20 sessions, I saw her once, and that's all I needed.
Okay. Okay. Wonderful.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was wonderful. Yeah. I mean, you know what? People want their relationships. So, if
Yeah, and
They don't want them toxic,
oh,
you
yeah,
yes,
know.
true. Yes.
yes.
And I saw like only 42% of married couples are happy. I saw that statistic last week, and I'm like, so 70 something are unhappy. That's not good. Let's fix this. You
Well,
don't have to live in misery.
we're moving that numbers up. Hopefully we're moving those numbers up,
There
letting
you
people
go.
know that it's a choice, there's a path, we can change it, and
Yep.
this is how we start. By the conversations on how to change and starting with individually me working on myself and you working on you, or we work on our relationship
It's,
together. I
Hmm.
usually say, it's like you said, you prefer to see two, and both people have to want the relationship in order for the relationship to change. We have to be, if we definitely say we want it, we both have to work on it.
Yeah. And
you
it's
know,
basically getting to the root of the original
Absolutely.
issues. That's the most important part, which is the child trauma piece. Childhood trauma unhealed leads to love trauma.
Yes,
yes.
So
yes.
they're
Yeah.
correlated.
We did some studies and we found that to be true. And we've been married for 30 years, and
Yeah, that's nice.
yeah, thanks. And what we found out was like, man, my childhood played a lot, in this relationship. I do this
Yeah.
because of this, because I did this in my childhood and all this other
Or
stuff.
even how we picked each other.
Oh, exactly. How we
know?
picked each other.
Yeah.
It was
And-
just interesting.
Right. Just being able to piece those pieces together, realizing that, wow, as you said, it wasn't until later you thought about your dad. Well, that's the trauma from my dad. So it's those
Yeah.
aha moments that help you in your relationship moving forward.
What a lot of couples do, unfortunately, is fall in love totally by chemistry. Wow, they're hot. Okay, let's get married. Okay. Yes, you need the attraction factor, but this is how we learned it, right? The
Right.
story
Right.
tales. Sleeping
The
Beauty
fairy
lay there. The handsome prince came and kissed her. They went off happily ever after. That's what we learned, right?
And we don't even know what's the ever after is, right?
Right.
We always they say happily ever after, and everyone's like, okay, that's where the story ends. But really, that's where reality picks up, and so it's up to us to create that happily ever after.
Yeah.
We had a couple on saying, well, you're either married or you're happy. And our goal is
Right.
to help people, right? And I was like, no, that's not true, because
No.
the goal of it is to be happily married, which
Right.
is a possibility once we help and spread the word that it's possible through certain avenues, vehicles,
Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
that was kind
We-
of took me by surprise. That happy or married.
Yeah. So, but
I'm like, I'm
that's
happily
well-
married. I mean, if that counts.
The problem with chemistry is it draws you right back to the past. Like the girl that says, I would never marry a man that's an
Yep.
alcoholic because my dad was an alcoholic, but she might marry a guy that smokes pot every day.
right.
So
Which is
it's
the
still
same.
the addiction and the addictive personality type, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
They
Yeah.
could like the fun and being loose and all sorts of stuff, because when you drink, you have fun the majority of the
Mhm.
time, or you smoke and you having fun and stuff like that. They may like that part of it. They may not want the other stuff, but they just know they want to have fun. So it all
Yeah.
depends on what you want in your relationship, what you, how you.
well,
wanna
the
live your
addiction
life.
piece is the problem when it becomes
Right, the addiction.
Which is right,
Yes.
right.
day
The childhood
and-
trauma from something else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So hopefully next time we speak, those numbers would have gone up. So
Yeah.
we're trying to
Yeah.
change relationships into knowing that they can be happy and married.
Yeah, my
So it's-
motto is helping to change the way the world loves. That's what I do in helping people heal from the original childhood trauma, healing the love trauma that they've had, whether singles or couples, and then learning to have and create the love that they deserve. That's
Absolutely.
by really getting incredible skills that nobody taught before.
No
So-
one. Yeah, I agree. That's part of the issue in relationships, that we just weren't taught effective communication,
Nope.
how to communicate with each other needs and wants, and how to work through issues, as you said, past traumas. Just
Yeah.
being able to,
We didn't
talk
talk.
through 'em.
We
Yeah.
didn't grow up talking about much of anything. Just,
Yeah.
you didn't say
in
much enough.
relationships.
Relationship in the family, whatever.
Well, that's
Just-
kind of, it was kind
Yeah.
of be seen and not heard, right?
Right.
And then you
Yeah,
just kind
many
of whatever.
families.
Yeah, and
Right.
whatever you observed, you kind of filter it through a childhood lens.
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
is that really telling me? What is that showing me? What is arguing? A lot of people feel as though arguing is, if you grew up in a home that your parents argued all the time or hollered and screamed, to you, that's normal. And it may not be with someone else. And it's up to us to realize that that's a pattern of, past trauma. We have to change. the way
Yeah,
we
I
do
had a
things.
couple in my office. She was a South Philly Italian woman. Now I had a lot of South Philly friends, and they yell and scream at each other all the time. That just was normal. And she married a Midwestern guy, right, from a farm, easy laid
Wow.
back. So I say, so what brings you in here today? He goes, I'm not happy because she screams at me all the time. He goes, what do you mean I scream at you? I don't scream at you. That is like, I'm like, oh my God, you don't see it, do you? You don't even
It's
she didn't see
normal.
it. Yeah.
It's
But
normal.
that's how normalized it becomes. So it can be cultural. It could be the place you grew up, the norms from
Absolutely.
that. I mean,
Absolutely.
me moving from Philly to Florida, I was a fast talker, and people thought, so that's a little aggressive. I'm like, okay, I got to slow it way down here. It's like, I'm in Florida now, so
Right.
I'm not going to talk so fast. But
I
yeah,
actually had that experience. I went to Florida one time, and I was walking through the store, and I was asking them, hey, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, you're not
No,
from
you're
here,
not
are
from
you?
here,
I
are
was
you?
like, why do you say that? He was like,
You're moving too fast.
right, you're moving too fast. And I was just like, and it's normal to me, right?
Yeah.
You come
Where
in the
you
store,
from?
you
Chicago.
yes,
Oh,
you talk
Chicago. You
fast,
grew up in Chicago. Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
talk fast, you move fast.
That's
you know,
it.
You just, you get things done. And of course, from a woman, I'm a little aggressive. So they're like, whoa, wait a minute. You know?
Right. What's going on with you?
I thought that was so funny. So
Yeah,
I'm like you, okay, I'm in the South.
Yep.
Have to tone it down a little bit, slow down. This is a like snail pace compared to Chicago.
Yeah.
Right.
That was fun.
All right.
Okay.
So is there any last tip that you would give couples out there in moving their relationship from I'm settling or I'm just married to we're going to be happy?
Another thing I teach is balance triangles, and there's many of them, but one is me, you, and us. And once you clear the anxiety and the trauma out of your body, and if you're feeling anxious again, that's just now our friend. The new anxiety is telling us we're out of balance. So you're either doing too much for, him,
One thing.
not enough for you, too much for the kids and the family or at work. And you always are, again, consciously evaluating, am I balanced? Am I having enough fun in my life? Am I having enough quality time with my partner? So always analyzing, where am I? What is my body telling me? And there's just so much to learn, but it's so exciting. So I just want to encourage you, don't, start now. Have these skills for the rest of your life, for sure.
All right. Tell everyone where they can reach you.
Sure. My website
Instagram, everything.
is the best place to find me. It's my name, RianaMilne.com. And on there, you can get the free ebook, How to Have the Love You Deserve. That's a great place to start. Free chapter downloads, like the first 60 pages of Live and Love books. There are 4 free love tests on there for singles and couples to see how you're doing, and the red flag checklist to see how your partner's doing. And my podcast is called Lessons in Life and Love with Coach Riana Milne. I have 110 shows out there on every platform and about 250 tapes on my YouTube channel.
Sounds fantastic.
You're definitely getting the word out there, aren't you?
I'm helping one person at a time, doing the best that we can.
That's our motto. One relationship at a time, one day at a time, changing lives.
When people learn these skills, they do help other people through it. It's amazing.
Absolutely.
They recognize it.
And it helps for the next generation.
Yes,
we're starting to have healthy relationships, which can move us from toxic relationships to actually recognizing and being able to be a part of healthy relationships moving forward.
Yeah.
All right, Jason, any other questions?
I don't have any other questions. Riana, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your wealth of knowledge.
Yes.
It's been great. I know the listeners are going to have plenty to take away. And guys, take a listen. Pay attention to what she's saying. You can have a healthy relationship, a happy relationship, but it's going to take some work.
Yes, and you can get all of her information in our show notes.
Yes, we're going to have it all there. But we're going to have Riana back on again because it's a lot of stuff we didn't tap into.
Absolutely.
You're a treasure trove of information, so we're definitely going to tap in.
All right. So
sounds good.
All right. So as not yet, as always, we're in it to win it.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Lovin' Beyond the I Do podcast. Head over to iTunes to subscribe and leave a review. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Legendary Relationship, or visit our website at legendaryrelationship.com. Till next time, remember to make every day count.